All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Big Discussions 76. So, tonight, I am not going to waste time. Tonight, we're going to do another. I haven't done this in a while, but the plan is to have the financial team. I have several financial teams, but I have a financial team that's specific here to YouTube. On the eve of probably the most anticipated presidential debate, I'm going to have the financial team come back and we're just going to chop it up about one of our favorite topics, which is money. The money. So tonight, I'm supposed to have Sheed and Salchi. I'm sorry, Alonzo calls him Sal, like he's from one of the mob movies, Goodfellas, the Godfather, the Goodfellas, the Godfather, Casino, Sal. So Sal's supposed to come through, and then speaking of which, Alonzo, the czar of the insurance world, he is supposed to come by as well. So I'm gonna play my intro, my Sal intro, and then I'm gonna give some initial words, and then hopefully the guys will show up and we'll start chopping it up. All right, let me check my Android over here to see if I've got anything. I know someone else, a much bigger fish than me, is streaming right now. And we do have quite a few common subscribers. So I know those people are over there. Oh, by the way, rest in peace to James Earl Jones, the great James Earl Jones passed away. I think he was 90 years old. So he had a nice long life. So James Earl Jones passed away. So rest in peace. James Earl Jones played a huge role in my childhood. The Voice, in particular, he voiced Darth Vader, and then he played the bad guy in Conan the Barbarian. So I have vivid memories of that character's grisly death. He played in Soul Man. What else? What else did James Earl Jones play in? Claudine. I was too young to watch Claudine. I never watched it. What else? There's another one. Coming to America. He was in a lot of things. All right, let me make sure these guys are coming. Otherwise, I have some other things I could be doing with this time. Shoot this text message right quick. I got one viewer there. Please smash that like button if you haven't. And let me know who is here. I see people hopping in and out. Sheed, Sal, and Alonzo, their names are in the title. So if people show up and they're not here, then folks might run away. Okay, well, let me play my intro. Maybe once I do this and I get into my initial discussion, perhaps they'll come through. All right, I'll see you on the other side of the intro. Because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information.
Top 10% income earner entry, $152,321. And number of returns was just under 14 million. Entry into 1%, $548,336 a year. Number of returns or people, basically, rounding 1.3 million. Top 0.1%, I'm rounding again, 2.6 million a year. Returns, 120, I'm rounding, 128,000. 0.01%, basically, 14.7 million. a year. Number of returns, 12,000, almost 600. Dropped again significantly, 0.001%. 77 million plus a year. That's only 1,100 people. That's it. So when people walking around here talking about money, I just laugh. You don't know money.
Because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. Not everybody is privy to the same information. Okay, so tonight is supposed to be an open money stream with Sheed, Alonzo, and Sal. I'm reading the title there. So I'll try to keep the seat warm while somebody shows up. But yeah, we did these. We did a number of these for a while, periodically, last year, and I think the year before that. These are a lot of fun. Money is an important topic, and as I'll describe, Piers Morgan stated that that's going to be the deciding factor. There are a lot of factors in this presidential election, but that's arguably going to be the biggest factor and the deciding factor in this election, because a lot of people, as I'll describe, are hurting right now, and a lot of people want prices to come back down. They want to be able to afford things again. They don't like seeing our country send money overseas. And also, they don't like the country having a open border, an open southern border, where mass amounts of people are piling in and adding to the costs of everyone here. So there are a lot of things at play, and the economy is thought to be one of them. All right, so on that same vein, I'm going to read this. Okay, if they come, I suspect politics will get woven in somewhere. But since that is a current event and that is what's going on, I'm going to read this. This was left at my doorstep over the weekend. This is a flyer for Madam Vice President Harris. So this reads as follows. Okay. This front part says this. Okay. Kamala Harris for president. Lowering costs, check. Protecting reproductive freedom, check. Fighting for our future, check. The back says, Vice President Harris, a record for fighting for the people, a prosecutor. She's locked up sexual predators to protect women and girls. As California Attorney General, she cracked down on transnational gangs, trafficking across the border, and took on the big banks on behalf of homeowners. And then finally, as senator and now vice president, I got distracted by the chat there. Brother, truth be told, thank you for stopping through. Yes, everybody, please smash the like button. And also, if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. You know, when you cross, I think I have to credit BGS for this. When you cross, I crossed 2,000 over the weekend. But when you YouTube and you're hovering right there on the threshold of something, YouTube will unsubscribe you. So I crossed 2,000, but the number went back down. So now I'm at, Prince and the Revolution, 1999. So if you're unsubbed, maybe you were subbed, please consider hitting that like button to push me back over 2,000. Okay, so I'm waiting on at least one of my guests. And if they don't show up, I'll talk for a few more minutes and then I'll eat my dinner because I have a full week. All right. So her third check mark, Madam Vice President Harris's third check mark as a senator and now vice president, She's expanded access to healthcare, led the fight for reproductive freedom, and now is working to lower costs. That's a nice segue into this type of discussion. But there's more on the inside. There's a lot more on the inside. Let's read what's on the inside. I didn't mean to do that. All right. So what's on the inside? Vice President Harris fighting for working families, lowered healthcare costs, capped insulin at $35 for seniors, and will end all medical debt, expand access to healthcare, and bring down housing costs. Okay, that's one check mark. Protecting the right to choose, will reverse the devastation of Trump abortion bans, and will never allow MAGA Republicans to pass a national abortion ban. And then the final check mark, created nearly 16 million jobs, cut taxes for working families, and will make the ultra wealthy pay their fair share. Learn more about Vice President Harris and her record and vision for America at KamalaHarris.com. Okay, so Donald Trump. Now we get to read his depiction by the Harris campaign. So Donald Trump, an extreme agenda, and they have red X's next to his points here. Pledges to be a dictator on quote unquote day one, and is willing to terminate the Constitution to take revenge on his opponents. Brags about overturning Roe. Wants to pass a national abortion ban, and called for quote unquote punishment for women who get an abortion. Okay. Would gut Social Security and Medicare. And then finally will raise taxes on middle class families. Will give a massive handout to the richest 1% and big corporations. Cut your Social Security and Medicare. And then finally end the Affordable Care Act and raise the costs of everyday goods. Okay, so this was left at my doorstep yesterday, leading up to tomorrow's much anticipated debate. But this is not about politics. Let me see if anyone texted me back. Nope, no one here. Okay, well, I'll talk for a little bit longer, and then if no one shows up, then I'll wrap up and finish making my dinner. All right, so I wanted to do, I thought it'd be cool to do this again, an open financial stream. Something that inspired this, I left a video underneath by Ask an Older Man. There's a channel called Ask an Older Man. He talks about a lot of things, relationships, but also the state of the future of civilization itself, and what role this whole dating gamish that we're in plays in that. And there was an interesting video that he showed. I'm leaving it in the description box. I'm not going to play it. It's his video because I don't want to get a copyright strike. But there were apparently over on TikTok, it's on a popping over on TikTok. There are a number of, there's footage of a number of ladies, younger ladies, who have started lamenting the fact that they own homes and they have mortgages. And to make a long story short, for example, they lament the expenses. So anyone who owns a home knows that once you sign that mortgage, you're responsible for paying back that mortgage, but also there are hidden costs. There are costs with the home. Okay. And if something in that home breaks, you, the homeowner, are responsible for it. So you have these people who are lamenting having a home, having to get it fixed, having to make repairs on that home, and also in some instances, their mortgage rate changing. And that happens if you have an ARM. I don't want to tell all my business, but I have a condo unit and I have an ARM. So I just experienced a rate hike recently, and that's part of having an ARM. That's part of home ownership. Okay, home ownership. Once you sign that mortgage, obviously you want to keep working. I'm gonna post a link in the chat. She might be out there somewhere. He often doesn't say anything until the link is posted. So give me a second here, and I'll get back to my rant on home ownership. So that's there. And of course, the heart and the smiley face, those are in the way. And I'm going to give another comment here so I can pin it. Cynical Optimist is here too. All right. So in case Sheed or Alonzo or Salchi comes through, the link is there. All right, let me just check my Android again. Oh, I have a text message. Hold on. Okay. All right. Let me send a text to the other guys. Give me a second. Cynical Optimist, how's it going? You guys out there in the chat, what do you guys think about tomorrow night's debate? Are you looking forward to it? Do you have any predictions? Anything? Oh, I see the numbers ticking up. That means someone's stream must have just ended. Uh-oh, Kareen of House Atreides is here. Please smash that like button, everybody. You know, it's Monday. Folks have lives. You know, my dad always says he doesn't want anybody to do work on him on a Monday or on his car because it's Monday and folks are coming off the weekend. So I get it. Folks have lives. Okay, I just sent out the bat signal. Oh, Kareen of House Atreides, thank you so much for the generous super sticker. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I think Denzel Washington did this in Fallen with John Goodman with that. It was the movie about that demon. Let's see. JJ Mara says, I don't think it'll make a big impact. I don't think the debate will make a big impact. BGS, yep. That's why the numbers are ticking up. Brother Truth Be Told said, predicting Kamala will just call Trump racist again and again the entire debate. I'm sorry. I'm speaking. So back to my little diatribe there. I think she's going to come along shortly. But as I was saying, and everybody please smash that like button. Home ownership is it's a very, very complicated thing. There are a lot of moving parts to home ownership, quote unquote, when you have a mortgage. And many would argue that you don't own the property until you pay the mortgage off. And for a lot of people, that takes 30 years or more. But it's a responsibility, right? And I know for a lot of people, it's a flex. I've said that on camera. It's a flex because, oh, I have a home. I'm a homeowner. But there are a lot of responsibilities that come with that in terms of maintaining the property, updating the property, and also keeping your personal finances in order so that you can continue to pay the loan. And it's not always fun. It's not always exciting. It's not as fun as going on a cruise. It's not as fun as going to Burma or Africa or Paris or Tulum or Cozumel. It's not as fun. Homeownership is not as fun, but it's a major responsibility. Okay, there's power in it, and there's major responsibility. It's a major responsibility. Okay, I have one guest backstage. I want to make this really, really quick so he can come up and talk. Kareem said Morocco. Yes, homeownership is not as fun as going to Morocco, but it's a responsibility. And if you do it right, eventually you can buy some other things and maybe fund as many trips to Morocco as you want. Now, the other thing that occurred to me is that you hear a lot of stories here in the DMV. Salchi's probably heard these two stories of people, particularly over in Prince George's County, where a lot of Black folks live. There are stories of people over there who own homes that are unfurnished because the cost of the home uses up most of their disposable income. So they have the home, but they can't furnish it. And I've pondered this since I became a homeowner, quote unquote, and I got a mortgage. I don't know for a lot of people that this is something that you're meant to do by yourself. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that keeping everything going, paying the bills, paying everything on time, managing the expenses, managing the repairs, all of it, paying the taxes, knowing when to go get the mortgage refinanced. I don't know that this is something that was meant to do for people. I don't know if this is something that people were meant to do by themselves. Okay, unless with the exception of a few cases, because it's a large responsibility, and just keeping everything on track, that takes a lot of work. And then the last thing I'll say before I bring Sal up, she's here too. In light of tomorrow's much anticipated debate, I think this might be the most anticipated presidential debate ever in my lifetime. But everybody be careful out there. There's another video underneath by a gentleman. She might know who this is, named Big Ward. He's a gentleman on YouTube. He's not part of any sphere, but he's a big burly truck driver from Georgia, speaks with a southern drawl, very heavy-handed in his delivery, talks about a lot of things. But there's a video underneath where he talks about I've never seen things like this in terms of people out asking for money, in terms of people living under bridges, in terms of people being destitute. So we are going back to that theme of what Piers Morgan said about people voting on their pockets. There are a lot of people out there hurting right now. So watch your back. Be careful out there, because a lot of people are hurting. And when they don't have any other way to feed themselves, they may see you as the food. The 7-Eleven I go to down here, sometimes I do go to 7-Eleven for things maybe I shouldn't get. Last night I pulled up, it was last night, and two gentlemen were standing outside that 7-Eleven. And as soon as anybody pulled up, their eyes were like, and I knew as soon as I got out, one of them was going to say, hey, can you give me this? Can you give me that? One of them looked particularly like something could have happened, like something could have jumped off. So everybody needs to be careful today. Maybe you don't go to 7-Eleven, but if you look at a lot of streets, if you look at a lot of corners, there are a lot of people out with their hands out, with signs up, asking for donations. And again, when people don't have money to feed themselves, they may turn around and see you as the food source. So be very, very careful. I'm going to bring up Salty the Equalizer and Sheed We here. We're going to just have a little open money thing discussion, a little open money discussion, and we'll just rock out for about an hour more. And see where it goes. What's going on, fellas?
Hey, good afternoon or good evening.
What's going on?
Nothing much. Sheed, how about you?
I'm doing good.
Okay, so Sheed, do you know what? Have you heard of Big Ward?
No, I haven't heard of him. I probably know if I see him. It's because it sounds familiar. The guy you're talking about.
Yeah, he's a truck driver. I think he's from Georgia. I think he's based out of Georgia, and he has some entertaining content. Does some of the relationship stuff, but also talks about current events as well, and money, and the direction of the country. I'm going to read this comment here from Kareen. Salty, I'm sure you've heard of this yourself. You probably heard of this yourself. She says, really? Can't furnish? Maybe luxurious furniture because you can get a lot of used furniture, etc. That's not expensive. But I made the point that over in Prince George's County, I've heard a lot of stories of people having houses, but they're so house poor they can't furnish the house. And I know that's hard for some people to imagine, as evidenced by Kareen there, but that does happen. Have you guys heard of that or experienced that?
Oh yeah.
Heard of it. I haven't experienced it.
Okay. Or do you know someone who's house poor? Also, your clients probably know, but
I mean, there are some. You just have to dig into their finances. That's the thing, because again, I mean, we've had a credit market since the 70s, right? So again, this is why I always harp on understanding financial statements and taxes, because once you start seeing that stuff, you know the truth. For me, I just need to hear a couple things, and I just have a real good idea where you are financially. I don't need to hear a lot. Tell me your zip code. Tell me what area you live in. Tell me what you do, what you drive, what is the lease, paid off, whatever, how much you put down. Got a good idea where you are financially. And like I always say, most people don't make a lot of money. Not looking down on anybody. It's just numbers, it's statistics. Most people don't make enough money. Plain and simple. And I used to say, before all this crazy inflation, I used to say, if you don't make 100,000, generally speaking, you can't afford a house. That's what I used to say prior to 2020. What are they saying now publicly? It's easy math. To me, it's easy math, man. But people in their feelings.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What,
Well, I was gonna say too with that. The crazy part is, when you have a lot of not trying to do the whole gender thing, but then a lot of women would try to go and buy the properties due to the fact that such a little background.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
It's my class.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people they'll go, like, a lot of the women will go and buy these houses because they, honestly think they can afford them. And to be honest, you can afford the house, but how much of the house you can afford? Because typically when it comes down to it, and I mean, prime example, my wife, we went to go buy the house. She wanted all the upgrades. She wanted all the luxury amenities. And I told her, I said, it came with a price. I'm like, we always look at HGTV. And there's always on the show where the property brothers show you the real nice house for like 800,000, 900, or almost close to $1 million. And then they show you the house for 200,000 and say, well, this what you can afford with a little upgrades. And typically people always want to go for the shinier, nicer house. And hey, as a real estate agent, their job is to sell you the home. Their job isn't to, critique you on, can you afford this? Can you afford the taxes in the area? Can you afford, like you said, furniture? Because I've known people that had a house And I've been to that house, you know, in the housewarming, all they had was a sofa, just a set sofa, love seat, entertainment center, and a TV. You know, no dining room table, none of that. They trying to get people to get on the housewarming gifts on their IKEA furniture, the registry on IKEA to buy this stuff. Because I remember one lady, she was going to college. I was working for this little company. I had to go. Everything she bought was from IKEA from her dad. Like her dad literally furnished her place for her as a housewarming gift because she said she couldn't afford it. She was a struggling college student, just got out of college, and you know got her job, but she was pushing all her money into her residence where she stayed at, which was a nice townhome. But then you know, factor that she had got a brand new car straight out of college and just got the first job in her field. She didn't even have that job more than I think 2 months before she went and got her own place and got all that stuff. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Okay, I want to acknowledge we have one of the aliens here from I think the Savings Minus Debt family, Andre Biswa. I understand what those emojis mean. So salute to you and the Savings Minus Debt family. So Sheed, you sent me a short last week when I pinged you about this, and before you guys came up, I talked about my reflection about home ownership and whether or not most people are meant to do this by themselves. And she, at the end of that short, I think it was you talking, that said that people are going to eventually have to go back to partnering and buying things jointly. Did you want to say anything about that clip you sent?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's gonna be prime example. Is either gonna be stand back, move back home with your parents, or they're gonna be just getting into a relationship just for buying things. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Charleston White and the things that he stand on, but he said prior to a lot of people they didn't get married for love. They got married for wealth. And the wealth was joining two incomes. And a lot of people forget, you know, you can grow to love someone, but I mean, it's kind of hard financially to love someone when they don't have anything, you know, and that's one of the biggest issues that a lot of people are facing right now. They're so-called putting their heart out versus, you know, financially trying to figure things out, and they tend to lose real bad on that end, you know, because hey, who knows 40 years from now, 20 years from now, you know, people that are watching this, even watching this, you know, if you're single, married, hey, things have changed. But you know, in reality, if you saved or you have a significant other that pretty much work with you, you stand the test of time.
Okay, so Sal, do you have any comments on that? I mean, are most people are these mortgages, are they meant to be held by one person? Or I mean, I know, you know, for Bruce Wayne and for Elon Musk, they can do it. Tony Stark, they can do it. But your average working Joe, depending upon where you are on the ladder, the income ladder.
Well, the thing people have to, you know, people don't read, man. They don't realize that this is it's literally a luxury, because prior to all these, they're you know, these are products and services. So prior, you actually had to pay. Like, you couldn't get a house if you couldn't afford a house. End of story. You know, we're talking decades ago. And again, starting in the 70s, because with the credit and all that stuff, all these programs started coming in. Okay, then. And even then, at a minimum, you had to put 20% down. Point blank, period. If you couldn't do that, you didn't want to hear anything from you. And, you know, other programs came in, obviously, you know, because some people complained about affordability, rightfully so. And in other cases, as usual, you just can't afford it. You can't make the numbers work. So, you know, so the problem is a lot of people, again, it's kind of like a car. I don't care. You can make the payments. It doesn't mean you can afford it. Again, people don't understand money. They really don't. I'll be nice. 90% of people don't understand money. I'm going to be nice with that comment. They have no idea. The average person who puts the average down payment as of recent is in the 8 to 12% range. That's it. And we're talking about people who've been working for decades. Now, if we want to talk about a second home purchase, it still doesn't even touch 20% down. And what most people do when they get their second home, the down payment for the most part comes from, guess where? The equity from the previous house. If they had equity, for the most part. So people get upset. Oh, why should I pay mortgage insurance because I didn't put 20%? Because you're higher risk. That's why. That's a sign. These little things tell you can't afford it. Your interest payment is going to be more because you are higher risk. They have to factor that in. Oh, that's not fair. No, actually, it is fair. Because at the end of the day, you can just leave the house, and it's going to be stuck on whoever owns the mortgage. It's going to be stuck on their financial statement.
Yeah,
and they have to answer to other people. People don't see these other sides of things. People feel this country is way too comfortable. People are entitled. You are not entitled to a house. You can't afford it. Point blank, period. And even when you start doing the math, that's why I said when it comes to this money stuff, I don't argue with people, man. If you're not in my level, or if you're not in my field, for the most part, I don't listen to most people because they don't know what they're talking about. If you want to compare ownership to rent, on average, typically when it's favorable to own a house, it's after 12 years. 12 years of your life. People don't understand that. Someone who's a renter can actually be further ahead of you financially by not owning a house.
Wait a minute, Salchi, unpack that. How is a renter ahead by not owning?
One, down payment. You have down payment. Remember, when you have a house, you are responsible for everything. So just the cost to get into the house, you already trump what someone has to pay to get a rental. So you're already behind technically. Financially, you're already behind. And then obviously, depending on where you live, depending on your income, and all this other stuff, that's why it typically takes 12 years. Now, of course, there are cases where that's not the case, but on average, that's what it takes. And I emailed you the rent versus ownership calculator. Most people don't know about these things.
Yeah.
And even when I bring it up, most people don't want to hear it. Most people, they don't want to hear the truth, and or they don't want to put in the work. That's why I used to say minimum you need to make $100,000 on average to even consider owning a house. Now, if the government is saying you need to make over 100,000, then you know what it really takes. Far more than that. In my opinion, it was 100,000, or you had to be in the top 10% of income earners. But like I said, ever since 2020, if you're not a top 5% income earner, good luck. Sorry. Doesn't mean you can't get into a house, but you have to sit down and do the math. It's not hard, man. You got Excel, you got templates, you got apps. It's like it's no excuse. It's just no excuse. And even people are now realizing, people who purchased in 2020 to last year, oh my God, I can't afford this house. And Dr. Dunbar, we're connected on LinkedIn. I mean, not LinkedIn, on Instagram. Mm-hmm. You saw some of my stuff. I was putting stuff out for the past 2.5 years saying I wouldn't purchase a single family house right now. The prices are high. It doesn't make sense. You're buying at the top. There's only one direction where it can go. I mean, unless you make a whole lot of money, or you're really gonna stay in that place. Okay, then it kind of doesn't matter. Kinda. But most people are not in that category. Most people are trying to wiggle their way into a home. And I haven't even gotten into breaking down what you really need to be doing so you don't screw yourself over. Because when I get into that, most people, they really, 9 out of 10 people, I see the life drain out of them because they're realizing, holy crap, I really screwed myself over. How am I going? Yeah, that means you're going to have to make a whole lot more money. I'm not saying it's not my place to say how much you should make, what you should do with your life. My point is to just say, this is what it is, man. If this is your goal, this is the minimum. Quick math, most bankers or people, lenders, it's typically going to be about a quarter, whatever the house, the price of the home is, it's typically a quarter of that. That's where your income needs to be, typically. That's how I do math real quick. So if it's 100,000, 25,000, 250. I mean, just quick math. I mean, it's more complicated than that, but quick math, that gives you a ballpark figure. Now you're seeing the median home price in this country is 400. I think it was 452. This is 450. So yes, 450. Yeah, are you making over 100 grand? Me personally, I just do the 50%. You already know how it is, Dr. Dunbar. Where we live, especially where I live, average price is 1.7 million. Do I make a minimum of $600,000? That quick. Not putting anything down, nothing. And then again, most of these people, guess what they do with these closing costs? They wrap it into the mortgage. Genius! You're paying interest on closing costs. Again, another clear sign you can't afford the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm the bad guy. Okay. I'm the bad guy. No. I mean, all the information's out there. They give you it's right there. The national realtors for your area. You can figure out roughly what the closing cost in your area is. All right, save that. You don't want to pay mortgage insurance? Cool. Put 20% down. Okay, save that. Roughly, obviously the values are going to change throughout time, but depending on your income, it is minimum is going to take you 3 years to save just for a down payment. Minimum. If you're making more than enough money, yes. But if not, or if you're single, yes, it's going to take you some 8, 10, 12, 15 years realistically. Doesn't mean you can't get into a house and you can't afford the payment. Yeah, but anything happens, guess what? You're responsible, and people don't read those mortgage docs. And then when you have to change the roof, because if you don't, it's not fire that's the worst damage of a house. It's water.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need all of a sudden you need 15 grand, oh, I got to go back to the bank to get a HELOC. Oh, it's not fair. No, you didn't plan ahead. That's what it is. We don't know what the market's going to be 10, 15 years from now. We have no idea. Oh, you should have had a replacement reserve schedule.
Salchi, do you want to quickly unpack what that is?
Yeah, a replacement reserve schedule. I mean, you typically hear that more so on commercial real estate. And it's a breakdown of, because when you get a house, you're gonna have an inspection, and you're gonna have an appraisal. So the inspection is already going to tell you the condition of the house anyway, and so will the appraisal. Now with the appraisal, you can get the reserve. You may depending on where you live, you may pay an extra $400 or $500. Oh my God, that's a lot of money. Really? The amount of stuff that can save you thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even over $100,000+ for $500? I think that's a steal. But it breaks down the components of the home, how old it is now, the condition that it's in, and how much money you need to put aside for replacement costs. Boom. You already know. There's your budget. You know exactly how much money you need to put down, you need to put aside annually and or basically monthly. So when any of these major components breaks down, you aren't scurrying, running around trying to get money, or the house is accelerating on deteriorating because you couldn't afford to fix it. So it's right there. It's right there for you. That very few people even know about that. And even before you get into a house, you're supposed to know what's going on in that area. Again, we have the internet. You can go right on, depending on if you're Commonwealth, it'll be the county. If not, it's going to be the city. You can see, okay, what neighborhood do you want to live in? Just take any random house or the house you're actually looking at, and you can see what it has been appraised throughout the years. Holy crap. It shows you everything right there. So you already see what the property taxes are. You see exactly how much people were paying. What I would typically do is at the height of the market, in every market for the last 10, 20 years, I would look at that and say, how much were they paying? And what were they assessing it at? Okay, so it's gonna be roughly in that range again. Because property taxes, guess what it pays for? Schooling, all your local stuff.
Yeah.
That's what people don't realize. And guess what? Those people who work locally for the state and all that stuff, they get annual pay increases, right? So what does that mean? Your property taxes are going to go up. That's how you know these things. And also that's going to tell you, you can go to the treasurer's or the property assessor or tax assessor, and it's going to show you, the property tax percentage, and you can see the history of it. Height, low, so you got a good range. Done. You already have that math already right there. Utility bills on that house, not a problem. You can contact the utility company. They can give you information, not necessarily on that particular house because it isn't yours, but on square footage. So now you know. Oh, there it is. There's my budget. Real quick. Everything I'm telling people, you can do this shit in you can do this stuff in 30 minutes to an hour. Yeah. And it's not going to change ever. It's just not going to change. So you can always have that right there. You put in your Excel, just throw the numbers in, you're done. Now, when it comes to, lenders, now it all depends. It's going to depend on what's going on in the market, and it's going to depend on your income. So again, most of this stuff has to do with you, not even with the market. What have you been doing? I hope your taxes are correct. Remember, this is not your money. You're borrowing money. People are feeling entitled. So you're getting upset of why the lender is asking for certain information. Yeah, because it's called a risk assessment. So right off the bat, you should have last 2 or 3 years of tax returns. Most likely they're going to request you sign a 4506T, which you sign it and they send it over to the IRS, and the IRS releases your taxes for the last 2-3 years. That's why your taxes should be on point. Then they're going to ask for the last 6 months of your bank statements. Why? They want to see your habits and your income. And then still, I mean, for me, I would show up there with I would have 3 years of financial statements. Boom. Tax returns last 2 years. Boom. Oh, do you want me to sign? Oh, they'll be so shocked. This guy really got everything together. It's so rare somebody's like that.
Well, I want to get Sheed back in, but you know what, Alonzo, I just had one of those light bulb moments when you said that. Well, first of all, if you're going to go get a mortgage, if you're going to go that route, some people swear against that. But the first time it is scary because they do want to see all those things. But that goes back to what I was saying about having a home through that route. It's boring. It's because what they're looking for, they're not looking for you taking 5 trips to Bermuda and Tulum and Cozumel. They're looking to see whether or not you methodically pay your bills and you methodically get paid. So in that regard, it's routine. It's The lender likes stability,
Yes.
right? And stability lends itself to owning a piece of property.
Yes.
She'd go ahead.
Yeah. I want to say, speak on what Sachi was talking about with the inspection. If you can't afford an inspection or properly make the right choice of getting a proper inspector, you might want to keep renting. I mean, because honestly, what he's talking about is dead on. There's a lot of houses in California. People are renting versus buying because of look where you at. For one, properties are in the ranks of a million. Most people can't afford $5,000 a month, and if they can afford it, it's going to be tight within their budget. But you have some people that, been in their houses for 20, 30 years and they're just trying to get a little money. They're going to rent their houses out, for probably $3,500, $4,000, where the mortgage, I mean, the rates right now, as far as the mortgage, are $5,000 to $6,000 for these newer houses. Because what are they doing? They're inflating these houses off the muscle. I mean, I know a young lady, she bought a house. I was actually doing homework as what Sashi was talking about, looking at, past years, what the house was going for, what did they have it on the market for, whether they were trying to sell the house before the whole market went up. They bought the house around $89,000, tried to flip it for about 150, get the little quick money out of there. And right when the market was going up, they sold the house for 275 to this young lady. She didn't do none of the homework like I told her to. So that end, like I told her, I said, you're gonna be upside down in this mortgage. You ain't gonna be able to sell this house for at least 5 to 7 years. Hopefully you can get your money back even with that. It's just gonna take time for you to get your money out your house. Then on top of that, with an inspector, I gave her a good inspector. I always use this guy down here in Atlanta, never had any issues with him. She goes with the inspector that some other agent gave her. Horriblest thing. AC went out the first week of her moving into the house. She had issues with the roof, but she did the inspection on the roof, the AC, all this. She ended up paying $15,000 on top of her moving into the house, paying 15,000 on top, man. That was something that, if you got that money laying around, cool. But then you had to go borrow that money. So now you're putting yourself in more debt. I mean, honestly speaking, a house is a big responsibility. That's one of the biggest things I harp on with people. If you can't afford an inspection, because this is one of the main reasons why I went with this guy when I was going through seminars, when I was looking at the process of buying a house. This guy actually told me he went in, a lady bought a house, didn't get no inspection on it, went during the daytime, house, tons of light, turned around, moved into the house. Everything with all the light on the left side was messed up. The house ended up having some type of burn. They hid the smell real well, put wallpaper up, but all the outlets would just had covers over them. None of them were hooked up. There was a burn on that side of the house. The whole left side of the house was out. But you seen so much good lighting, you just think, oh man, why turn on the light switch? That's what the inspector's job. They're going in there flipping light switches, checking outlets, checking holes in the wall, AC work. They have thermal scanners to where they can tell if you have a leak in your duct. These are the things that the average person is not looking for. Yeah, you're going to flip a light switch. You're not going to check the outlet to see if the outlet works. You're not going up here checking the lights. All these things are things that you need to look at. And getting back into the renting part real quick, a lot of times if you can't afford an area, renting is your best option. I have one of my friends, he worked for the government pretty good well for himself. But his option was, hey, renting is the better option. That's the only I think he was in California, was the only place he was at where he didn't buy a house. Every other state he moved to, he bought a house, he has the property, and he's renting them out. But California, he said in certain areas, it was just so expensive. It didn't make any sense to buy because if anything goes wrong with the house, like Sachi said, you gotta fix the roof. You gotta fix that AC unit. If the door handle breaks, guess who gotta fix the door handle? The new maintenance guy, which is you. So a lot of people are not taking these things into consideration when buying a home. And on the front end, but on the back end, can you afford all these things? They do have home warranties, and what Sasha was talking about, putting money aside for things like that on average. But who's doing that?
Oh, the other thing I find interesting, right? Obviously, depending on where you live, especially people who go, they purchase a condo or they're in an HOA area or it's a co-op. Most of the people, they don't even know how to research that stuff. Like they don't know how to request stuff. Again, you need to request the financials. Are they taking enough money from the community for to fix and to maintain common areas? What typically happens is that because the people who are on these boards, they don't know. Most of these people, they don't know much about finances, let alone managing a community. So what you typically see is that they don't have enough money in reserves. You're supposed to look at the financials, and the main thing you're supposed to be looking at is the reserves. And they typically don't have enough. So when they need to change the roof, and the roof in a specific area can be well over 100 grand. I mean, well over 100 grand. And guess what? Everybody could pitch in their part. I had a client, 2 years ago. It was a couple. Both of them made over 100,000, so they were fine. They were actually fiscally smart, right? In DC, and that happened to them. It so happened that they weren't wasteful with their money, so they had to come out of pocket. What was it, 15 or 20 grand? That's just from one unit.
Hold on, so are you saying were they in a condominium association, or were they?
They were in a co-op in DC.
What's the difference between a co-op and a condo?
Well, a condo is you're in one building, and I mean you should share the common area and like the roof, and if they have like any amenities like outside, so you guys are sharing that kind of stuff. And again, depending on where you live, it could also be certain like not public roads, but roads within the community. And it's pretty much similar with the co-op as well. It's pretty similar.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, here where I live, we went through a series of the things you just described.
Oh, the change management?
Sorry?
The change management?
Well, projects needing to be done.
Okay.
Money having to be raised for the replacement reserves. And then if there's no money in the replacement reserves, everybody gets a bill.
Big bill.
A big bill. And you have X amount of time to pay the bill. If you don't have the money, we have financing options for you.
Yeah.
So it's not a joke.
Yep. And you can see, because especially when it comes to these co-ops and HOA communities and condos, right? What people don't realize is that the main thing that you need to see, because this is public record now, you got to go to the county or city to see it. I mean, maybe if you're lucky, a realtor or a real estate agent, they're actually savvy and resourceful, and they'll know how to get it fast, because you need to understand the rules in these situations, and that kind of stuff is in the like declaration of a condominium, or a condominium plan, master association, or in the case of HOA, it's a CC&Rs. You got to read these things. Oh, I know, it's boring. Yeah, well, I mean, you're putting your life, putting your blood and your sweat and your tears in there. I mean, what you think? So you need to understand the rules. Like, people don't understand in some areas you can't even paint the fence a certain color. You can't put a certain fence up, or your grass has to be manicured properly at all times. Like, people don't do all these things, and then they get in there and they find out it's too late for the most part. You just can't jump out of a house all of a sudden. I mean, it's irregularly rare where you would be in a situation where you can sell as, in a short period of time after purchasing. But you need to look at all these things, man. Again, even after you purchase, you need to look at your settlement statement, which is a HUD-1. You're supposed to keep that stuff for tax purposes. Very few people know that. And then for tax purposes and for when you sell. Because people like myself, we're going to need to see the basis and all this other stuff. But most people, they don't know these things. Well, and then they get mad when, he said, somebody like me tells you, well, there's no deductions for you. Oh, that's not fair. Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe someone didn't tell you, you didn't listen. Or maybe you forgot. Or maybe you don't keep your ducks in order. Again, it's on you. That's what ownership is. Ownership is AKA, that means you are responsible. You're accountable. That's what ownership means.
Sheeta, I know you want to go, but I have a question for both you guys, because you guys are interested in these things. And Salty, you're in the financial sector. The average Joe, the average Jane, is it their responsibility to look all this stuff up before getting in the process? Or because I know I'm thinking about when I was watching those videos of those young ladies lamenting the fact that they had homes and they didn't want them anymore. I'm certain some of them felt like nobody told me all this would go into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's the biggest issue because, like I was saying, basically starting off, your agent, their job, if you have someone that truly has your best interest at heart, they will tell you, hey, you don't want to buy this house. This house is above your price range, because most of the time you typically tell an agent what your price range is, what you're looking for. And now everything's automated. You just put it in the system, they automatically send you the emails. Agent doesn't even have to go look. You can look on yourself for houses, send them, hey, it's a nice house. Typically an agent say, well, I know the numbers that you got. I know several people that, got approved. So they'll say, hey, you might can afford this. We can do some working. Because the biggest thing is the agents are trying to get you to buy the most expensive house within your budget. Sometimes they go above your board of your budget if you can afford it. Hey, because it's all paperwork you got to show that proves, when you go to the table to finance it. So it's in their best interest to get you the best house that for their pocket. I know a guy, he ended up getting a guy into a $380,000 house, and right after he sold the guy the house, the first month, the dude couldn't even pay the light bill. His lights got cut off. And he was like, yeah, he mismanaged some money. And I was like, how could the guy mismanage some money? He's like, well, you know, this is his first time owning a home. And I'm like, this wasn't no young guy. This is a guy that was probably 51 years old. And I'm like, either you can't afford this house or you really don't know how to manage your money. And that's horrible at that age. But you have people like that. And even like I said, nobody's looking at how, they just go away from the house, just buying the house, the groceries, your car, because on average, everybody wants to have the nice car. As soon as you get a house, you got to get a nice car. All these things cost. Even that, like I said, buying groceries now due to inflation. I have a family of 4 with me. So every week I'm spending on average anywhere from 2 to maybe 5 every other week, $200 to $500 every other week. Now you're single. Let's say you have a child or not. You still have to eat unless you're going to be buying food out. Once you buy out, the price increases. If you don't make that money, what's going to happen? You're going to always eat out and don't pay the light bill, or you're going to typically start eating Roman noodles and have everything on. So it's going to be a push and shove either way. But go ahead, Sachi.
Well, before Salchi goes, I was going to say, I don't want to make this. I talked about the presidential debate a little bit before you guys came up, but that video by Big Ward, he said that as well. So everybody's having to pay a little bit more for their groceries. I was thinking about that the other day. I had to add on another $40 to my grocery budget. But you said that, so I wanted to throw that in. Go ahead, Salchi.
What was the question? The original question?
Well, I think she was just talking about someone he knew who purchased a home or got a mortgage for a home. I always make that distinction. And the rest of his finances were pretty much locked up or shot.
Yeah, that goes down to DTI, and that occurs under. Well, actually, before you even get to that, what I wanted to say, a home purchase is an emotional purchase. So, and when it comes to sales and marketing, it's a thin line between giving out facts and appealing to emotions, because the more you give out facts, your sales is going to be down or non-existent. So that's what makes sales very difficult. And a lot of people don't even listen to realtors or real estate agents who are actually good. Like, they'll tell you, do not purchase anything major in this process and a lot of people will still do it. A lot of these people will still go out there, buy a car, buy a house. They will tell people over and over, wait until the house closes. Don't go on vacation. Stay in communication with me. And it's like dealing with children. I have friends who, do that. I don't have the patience, man. You're an adult. I'm going to tell you something maybe twice, maybe. If not, I'm not going to take it serious after that. That's why I can't be in sales. I don't have time for it, man. So a lot of people don't even listen. And then when it gets down to the DTI, that's a debt to income ratio. So what people don't realize, a lot of times when you hear these numbers or this DTI, they're typically talking about, nominal or your gross income. So if they're saying 25% or 30% or 35% or 40%, they're talking about 30 to 25 to 40% of, at this point, 45 to 50% of your gross income going to paying for a house or even rent. Okay. When you factor in taxes and you take home, that number goes up. So you're in trouble. Now, an underwriter sees it. The underwriter will do the DTI and they will see the gross and they will do the net. And that's why they need to see. That's where they're going to need to see your financials, because your financials is going to show. And once they pull your credit, they're going to see your debt. Now we can get past the nominal number and go straight to the real. People think that people who have money, it's easier for them. No, it gets stricter because they don't make money like everybody else. So the rules are stricter for them. For you to get these $1 million homes, max, you have to make over. The cap is 35% after everything is said and done. Point blank, period. Because that's high risk. Okay, you have a lot of money, you can lose that shit tomorrow. As far as we know, depending on where your money is and how you're getting your income. So okay, you're buying a house that's $1 million for the most part. That typically gets you into those jumbo loans, right? For the most part. So yeah, especially if it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whole different animal. 35%, man. People just think it's easy. Oh, rich people got it easy. Not really. And then a lot of times, some of these deals, they have to put 20% down. Some 10. There's no bargaining. You have to have the cash. End of story. You don't have it, there's no conversation. So people who don't have money like that, I mean, believe it or not, you have it easier in a sense. You have it easier. Your problem is your income and or your spending.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your issue. And then a lot of these people, again, they don't understand finances and they don't want to put in the work. Sorry, but that's what it is. And this is why I always harp back to the 50%. You need to be saving 50%. Oh my gosh, that's impossible. Well, if you want to retire, I mean, these are just basic stuff without you going crazy in the numbers. 50%, typically you do that for 17 and a half years, you're going to have enough money to retire for the most part, if you're not going crazy. But then that tells you, okay, if I need to save 50%, that means I need to make X amount of dollars based on the kind of lifestyle I want now and later. And then, oh yeah, my rent and my mortgage total payment shouldn't be more than a week's pay, which is 0.25%, 25%. And that's why I say it should be net, not gross. Because if you say gross 25%, net, it could turn into 35, 40, 45%. I don't know. Depends on your income and your expenses. So you have to look at it that way. And that's why I also say when it comes to the car, max total payment on your car expense should not be more than 2 days earnings. So you do that, those 2 things alone. House, car, there you go. That's a week and 2 days. You have 3 more days left for everything else, basically. So the other 50% of your money is being saved and or you're investing that money. There it is. See how quick I did that? You don't have to know the math as well as I know it. You just know right off the bat. Okay, I don't make enough money. Okay, what do I need to do? Okay, what's the career path? Okay, what's the range of income? Okay, and then that's it. That's what I'm saying. You can get this stuff done in 30 minutes to an hour.
Okay. I want to thank Aquateki for the generous Cash App. I have a little salute here for Aquateki. I think I will play this one.
Roger me, will call me, anything. Hello, Earth.
That's a Transformers callback. Aquateki, I saw, I think it was an Art Newstall stream. You used the Galvatron Coronation Starscream. This is bad comedy. I think you put Madam Vice President's name in there. Coronation Kamala. This is bad comedy. Andre caught something. We're gonna get to the question in a second. But he said, "Well done, doctor. You caught yourself." So what that's referring to is that for some people, this is semantics. For some people, this is a really big deal. It's a very big deal over in the SMD community. And Robert Kiyosaki first identified this in the Rich Dad Poor Dad series, and that's that you don't. And this is a secret, that you don't actually own the home. You don't actually own the home till you pay it off, and then I think the joke is stop paying your property
taxes, and you find out who owns it.
so there are levels to this.
Yes,
but that's a secret. Salchi, when you said you don't start until 12 years, you don't start.
When home ownership typically begins to be favorable over renting.
Well, isn't part of that the fact that you pay all the interest up front? So your first 10 years of payments, that's all interest.
We're not even getting there. I mean, it's just the down payment for the most part, all that stuff. Because remember, your upfront cost already puts you behind. That's first and foremost. Your upfront cost, obviously. So it depends on how much you put down now, and it then depends on the mortgage program that you get into. But then, yes, after that, that's when it goes down to amortization, which you should have the amortization schedule when you get a loan, and it shows you throughout the time of the life of the loan. Now, yes, you can make principal-only payments to accelerate paying off the mortgage. People ask me, should you do it? I say it depends. I don't know. It depends on how much money you make, and it depends on how financially savvy you are. Because you can do better things with that money, potentially. I don't know, but yes, but Dr. Dunbar, you are correct.
So there are levels to this thing, and I remember when I learned that little wrinkle, I was like, all these little wrinkles. I was thinking, man, how come nobody told me about this before? My folks never talked about. They both have homes. They never talked about that little wrinkle there, where your first 10 to 12 years you're paying interest. But this question, she put this question in the back chat. He said, original question: do people have the knowledge or seek the knowledge before buying a home? She, do you wanna say something about that?
Well, that's what I was talking about with Sachi when he was asking the question. And I'm just going to say real quick, a lot of people don't. They have no earthly idea what they're doing. They're just following the trend. If it's the American dream to buy a home. American dream doesn't consist of the knowledge until you actually get the home, and as the baby goes, bump their head and keep bumping the head till you realize, hey, stop falling. Learn how to walk properly. But go ahead, Sachi.
Well, hold on, Sheen. You want to give us your saying about what is it? If you don't know the lesson, life will teach you the lesson. Is that how it goes?
No. It's the if you don't learn from life, life will teach you. So basically, life lessons. If you don't learn from the knowledge or just a pass down of skills, and people went through things, life will teach you these lessons without you even learning them. Because like I say, you'll bump your head. If you don't learn from life, life will teach you. There's a lot of people that can teach you how to, be financially ready. But if you don't, when you go through bankruptcy, lose your home, possibly divorce, all those things will show you, hey, you bumped your head, let's get back up and try it again.
Okay, I didn't mean to cut you off, Salchi, but
No, that's right.
Okay.
What I was gonna say is the scary thing about all this is the vast majority of people who retire, the vast majority of their retirement is tied into the home equity.
You know what? That's something I was thinking about. They say that a lot of wealth is tied up by the boomers.
Oh, the vast majority.
So, Salchi, do you want to unpack that? We'll hang on. We'll wreck out for about 20 more minutes. Do you want to unpack that for everybody? What that means?
So basically, as of recent, the number is roughly about 93% of wealth is in the top 10% of income earners. Point blank. Period. 93. It's probably higher. And then the vast majority of that, I forget what the figure is, but it's really high. It's in the boomers. So the boomers, including in the stock market, stocks, all of the stuff, board members, all that stuff, they're boomers. So yes, if you are an owner right now, because prices, they're way above where they should be. I'm telling you that right now. It's going to be a bloodbath. But they're happy because things have appreciated, right? And they own the vast majority of assets. But again, it's on paper. For the most part, it isn't cash flow. In other words, you are not receiving money monthly or quarterly. This is what people seem to forget. You have to cash out at some point. Or depending on the asset, if you're not getting paid monthly or quarterly or annually, then it is hard. You are beholden to the market. But then that's why you see people who actually have money. It's very rare someone who has a lot of money acquired it from a job. The numbers are, everything's against you. Taxes, you're capped. But when most people think about these things, they're thinking about the exceptions to the rules. These CEOs and CFOs, dude, you know how many people get that position, especially with these big corporations that are actually profitable? Here's a stat: less than 1%. That's your chance. Less than 1% for you to make that kind of money. And real rich people, for the most part, look at them and they're like, these guys aren't rich. And it's true for the most part, except for, just the small cases where you're a Fortune 100 company and the CEO's making 20 plus, 50 plus, or if you're in private equity, which very few people even understand, where some of these CEOs are making well over 100 million a year. Okay, that's rich. But the rank and file, they're not in that category. Boomers, but yes, boomers, they own the vast majority of assets, and of course they're voting. So what you're seeing right now that's going on, if you get caught up, unfortunately, in the propaganda and all the nonsense, what people don't really see, and I've said this before, even on Dr. Dunbar's lives. People don't see it's really the haves versus the have-nots, the young versus the old, the talented versus the untalented or less talented, the smart versus those who aren't smart or less smart. That's everywhere. And it's never turned off. That's what people don't understand. So if you're not unfortunately, if you're not talented, if you aren't smart, if you aren't with or you aren't in the circles of those people who are talented and smart, enough influence and power, this, that, and the third, life will be harder for you. Especially in America. So what people don't realize, people have this like 1950s idea of America. It died decades ago. America is now the land of the elite. Completely. Point blank period. If anyone hasn't seen what's been happening to their finances in the last 3.5 years and don't realize this, I'm sorry, you're finished. And you just don't know it. The caste system, we're pretty much in a caste system now, between the haves and the have-nots now. From a solid financial standpoint, very few people understand it. I've said it before. To get into the top 1% of income earners, and this is why these politicians use these numbers and they say it's rich. It used to be low 400,000. And that was an average, national average. Real rich people will laugh in your face. $20,000 a year, that ain't rich. It isn't. Now it's almost 700,000. Think about that. Has your income gone up that much? Percentage-wise? No. Your income has not kept up with inflation. It has not kept up with the cost. Point blank period. Again, I'm not telling you who to vote for or what side or anything. This is the beauty of understanding numbers. Because most politicians, for the most part, they sound like Charlie Brown adults to me when they're talking. It's just, they aren't talking policies and numbers. It's just nonsense. Because all I have to do is look at the policies and look at the numbers and look at the results. That's it. Treasury puts the stuff out. IRS puts the stuff out. All this stuff is to incentivize people. Point blank period. While everybody's fighting over opinions or over misinformation, I'm just gonna get the information from the horse's mouth and see what people are doing. Okay. This is what the vast majority of people are doing. This is what the rich people are doing. Okay. This is the results. Okay. IRS puts out the annual stats. It should be coming out next year, and it tells you exactly, based on, tax receipts. So that I know where people are. I know exactly what the top 1% is in the various levels. I know exactly what middle class is. I don't have to listen. I don't have to look at these articles who massage stuff. I look at the raw numbers, and I know where things are. And then now, they're talking about Social Security. Again, I know the trajectory. I know what it's going to take to fix. I can tell you right now what it's going to take to fix Social Security. Right now. They're going to have to raise the Social Security income tax. It's capped at 169,000. It's capped. They're going to have to remove that and raise that. And if they want to fix all these debts, all these deficits, guess what they're going to have to do across the board? Everything in your savings account, your pensions, your 401ks, this is across the board. 20 to 50% gone. Done. Okay, that's how we'll get back on track. You think that's going to happen? No.
Well, what politician would try to do something like that? I mean,
they wouldn't. They wouldn't. But again, they're saying that I'm going to fix all this stuff. What's really going to happen is things are going to get kicked down the road again, and certain things are going to get shuffled. But again, because we're more of a caste system now financially, and we've been seeing this, the gap between the haves and the have-nots will continue to accelerate. We're seeing things that this country has never seen. And this is why I look around when I hear certain things. I'm like, these people really don't have any idea financially. They will never recover in their lifetime. Like, they don't know this yet. 25% average. This is the average inflation rate in this country. 25%. Imagine a stock going down 25% in a day, or your 401k going 25%. And this is why they sell, oh, the longer you're in the market, yes, you can recover. Yeah. How long does it take? How many years? People don't even understand what it takes to get back to zero after losing 25%. Like, people don't know. This is the kind of stuff you learn in your first year of a finance class, for the most part. You should know. Some people say, oh, it's 25%.
Mm-hmm.
You lost 25%. Your day is going to take 25% to get you back in the black even. No, not even 50%.
Okay. We're at hour 26. I need to wrap up soon.
Mm-hmm.
Fox, you want to take a quick look at the calculator? I have it right here.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Andre, I saw your comment. We can email offline. We can email offline about a discussion. Okay, the calculator.
Yeah, that's it. There's a comparison.
Okay, so what this allows you to do is, so you have your home price, your down payment, 20%. What are you ultimately comparing?
Whether it's worth you purchasing or renting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's giving you the raw numbers. Instead of, like some kind of emotional response. It's just cold, hard financial analysis. Okay, so if I put this down, or if I get this house, this is the raw number, this is the cost. And then if I'm renting, okay, these are my costs, and this is it. Point blank period. Because remember, you can't get your time back. I mean, you can make more money, you can't get time back. So now in a sense, it's basically like an opportunity cost, because that difference, the extra money that you're putting in during that time, you could be putting into something else that's appreciating, or that's giving you, dividends or what have you, more money. So later on, you could actually purchase the house that you really want, either outright, or while putting more money down. So you can at least compare it, as opposed to just going in blind.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all it really shows.
Okay, I guess I was looking to see, so you have your monthly rental fee over here, which is $3,000. Yeah. I was looking to see if there was an equivalent, because that's what most people compare. They compare, okay, well, I'm spending $3,000 on rent. If I spend, $2,000 on a mortgage payment, then I'm winning.
But again, what people, like I said earlier, what people do not factor in is the closing costs, all that stuff, the upfront costs, and that's the biggest difference. Like, people just don't put that in. It's people just, again, they're just looking at nominal numbers. That's all they're looking at. That doesn't mean you're ahead. Doesn't mean anything. And then remember, I mean, yes, you will have some costs in a rental. Something could happen. You might have to pay for it, maybe. But for the most part, when you have a house, no, you are paying for it. And trust and believe, you're going to be paying for something in like 10 years. Like, it's going to happen. Even if you get a brand new house, 10 years, something's going to happen.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, something's going to break. Something's going to need to be replaced.
Yeah, because even a new house, it typically takes about 2 years for the house to actually settle. Most people don't even know that. So you really won't, for the most part, you really don't know the quality of the craftsmanship of a brand new house up until 2 years. You don't know. Most people don't know that.
I'm going to read this comment by the broke genius. He says, I recommend people learn to be a handyman. Excellent advice, not for a career, but for survival.
Yeah. Home Depot and Lowe's, I know they typically have workshops. And some local places may have workshops where you will have to pay. Like I know here where we are, or at least in Arlington, they do have like handyman courses, and it costs, I think the last time I checked, sometimes it costs it's like a few $100. You know,
Okay.
I mean, up for a course, it's not bad compared to something that's most likely going to cost you over $1,000. All right.
Yeah. Okay. We're at an hour 30. With the debate tomorrow and the election going on, I think that's a powerful place to end. Salchi, your point about us being in a the American dream being dead, and we're in this thing with the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
So does that mean you're basically? I mean, can you break up into the upper tier at some point, or once you get your high school diploma or your college degree, you're pretty much set, or once you choose a vocation of some sort, or if you become a real estate guru, does that mean that once you choose a road, you're pretty much set? Or,
well, I would say typically yes. The issue is most people in certain circles I'm in, we typically say people who use exception for the rules aren't smart. And that's what most people do. They will take the typical. They will blanket the exception for the rule on top of what typically happens on the averages, as if the probability is high that most people, even the person talking, is actually going to be that exception to the rule. You're statistically most likely not. So, as you're seeing, obviously it depends on where you live regionally. Depends on what's going on in the general market. It depends on the industry, and it depends on your education. Because we're seeing what's going on right now. We're seeing these BLS numbers. They just had a revision. I've been saying it for over a year. I'm like, these numbers are way off.
Okay,
I don't know what they're doing.
That's a really good point. I read this. This was left on my doorstep yesterday. Maybe it was left on your doorstep too, Salchi. You're up in Arlington. One of the points, and everybody, this is not disparaging the Madam Vice President. So for those of you who look and say you're a Trumper, no, this is what's on her little flyer here. It says this third point created nearly 16 million jobs. So
again, if you're in my circles, man, and this is the analogy I give people. Okay, let's say there's 1 million jobs, and 200,000 lose their job, right? And then the jobs increase by 50 or even 100,000. Are you in the black or are you in the red?
Okay, do it again. Do it again. Say it again.
1 million jobs.
Yes.
Let's say last month there was 1 million jobs. No,
yes.
2 months ago there was 1 million jobs. Last month we lost 200,000, and this month, let's say there were 100,000 new jobs. What's the real number?
You're still in the red because you're only back at 900,000.
Yes. But what will they say? 100,000 new jobs. You're still down 100,000. That's how they do it. And they had the revision. The revision is they were off by over 800,000 jobs. The last time we saw anything ridiculous like this was the Great Financial Recession. This is what people don't understand. That's why I say, when it comes to this politics stuff, you can't be emotional, man. You cannot. You have to understand policies You have to understand numbers. If you don't, I'm telling you, it's not going to end well for you. It just isn't. I'm not telling you who to vote for. It's not. She's talking about $25,000 credit for people to get a house. But what is the real problem? The real problem, obviously, one is jobs, and two is the cost. Why is the cost of homes high? These are local problems. And I've said it before. Impact fees. Developers get charged. So whatever the value of the land is, they have to pay the state just to connect utilities, all this stuff. It's typically 10 to 15% of the land. That's not you built in doing anything else. That goes to the city right away. That cost alone. So people aren't again, because people don't understand. They don't understand their environment. They're just gonna blame it on the banks. They're just gonna blame it on the builders. They're just gonna blame it on that. In some cases, it is partially this person, that person, that person. But as I always say, you always have to look at the person writing the rules. So you have to look at the federal government. You have to look at the state. You have to look at their policies. Then you see how in the taxes, because that's how you get rich. Rich people hire people like me to know these things. And they just go on about their life. They'll typically, when they can't figure out what the government is doing, they'll slow down on their spending or they won't make big purchases. Once they see, as many of them will say, once we see that they're going to continue making stupid decisions, okay, then it's back to business. I'm quoting them, many of them. That's how they do it. Just looking at policies and they go live their life. That's it. Common person, they get all emotional, want to argue. And it's like, dude, like you are not in a position to be wasting your time like that. You don't even have the money. What are you doing? I mean, it's unfortunate, but yeah, again, not telling people who to vote for. But that is what it is when it comes to housing. The cost to build. And then the interest rates went up. So it isn't profitable in most places to build. So who cares about a $25,000 credit if it isn't profitable to build new units? It's that simple. You will not stay in business. So it's the environment that they're creating. That's it.
Okay. I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. Thank you guys for coming up and passing on your wisdom. Do you guys have anything to say before you depart? Before I wrap up?
Thank you for having me on, man. Again, I'm not saying that it isn't possible for you to make it financially. It's really up to you at that point, and where you are and how nimble you are mentally, and you know, if you need to move somewhere, what have you. That's what it's gonna take, man. In my opinion, raw numbers, you need to be in the top 5% income earners now, depending on where you live. As of last year in my area, that was about 300 something thousand. I forget. That was in my county. In my county, as of last year, the new number should be coming up. 19.64% of individuals, not household, individuals make over 150,000. That's high. That's high.
Well, Northern Virginia is a bit of an anomaly.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Top 10% of richest county. We have 4 or 5 of them in the top 10 in the country. We occupy. People have no idea. So, yeah, man, you can make it. You just have to be nimble. You have to be realistic with yourself, realistic with what the market is, what the market wants. If not, I mean, you're gonna be out here trying to do all this other extra stuff. You're gonna be more beholden on programs and also the stuff that's just gonna take more time and cost more money at the end of the day. So, That's my
Well,
spiel.
you know, Salchi, before you go, you know, I think
Mhm.
I think there's also a big disconnect. We talked about the boomers. There's a
Yeah.
big disconnect between you know, what they think and what they experienced versus what all of us are experiencing out here today on multiple fronts. But the finances is a big one.
Well, yeah. Well, their thing was when they went to college, many of them could pay for college basically working during the summer. That was like a norm for their generation. That died a long time ago. That died right after them.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And the same thing with cars, you know, I mean, in terms of your income to, you know, what the car costs, same deal. Because even if you look at the 80s, a BMW, like luxury cars, European luxury cars, they didn't cost 100,000. They were like max to like maybe 80, 85, maybe. This is in the 80s. But again, because people don't, I mean, you can use a government CPI calculator. You can use that. A Honda Civic is like $40,000 now. $40,000 for a Honda Civic? I'm not paying that for no Honda Civic. I mean, that's just not me. I'm just not paying that for a Honda Civic. But I'm saying, that's the difference. So they don't see that. And I think a lot of them can be disingenuous. And a lot of them are delusional. And a lot of them, quite frankly, don't care. They're like, hey, I don't care. I put in my work. I put in the work. I did what X, Y, and Z. I just want my money back. And all the profits. Because again, remember, they're the ones in the position of power still. They're the ones who own the vast majority of assets. So guess what that means? They're the ones still writing the rules for the environment. Point blank, period. This is not taking sides. This is not looking up, not talking down. So that's why once you understand what's really happening, then you know who's telling you the truth, who isn't, who's being disingenuous. I mean, at least for me, it makes it very simple. And then I just ask certain questions. Okay, you're right. That's fine. This, down, the third. Okay, so if we're going to have a correction and you own X, Y, and Z, are you going to be comfortable with losing 50%? How about that? Can you take that hit? Do you have the time for recovery? All that other stuff? Oh, no, okay. So that's why you vote like that. Not judging, but that makes sense. Makes sense. And that's how you know. Yeah, so realistically, especially the last 3.5 years, they've really been selling the young folks out. Point blank, period, based on the decisions that they have been making. Point blank, period. Don't care what any of them say. I'm just look at the policies and look at the results. You can't say these kids don't want to go to school. They're going to school. They're getting in debt. Well, some of them now are not going to college. They're going into the trades. Okay? Which makes sense. And you're seeing the last couple of years, we've been seeing a lot of people in tech losing their jobs, and white collar people losing their jobs. And what are these corporations doing? And they're saying it publicly. They're spending more capital. They're spending more money on capital than they are on labor. On purpose. And it's mainly going to AI. These are facts. Point blank, period. These are facts. So yes, this is why the stock market is strong. That doesn't mean Main Street is strong. But if you listen, most people are always talking about the stock market. Why? Because pensions, 401ks, things of that nature. And it's a representative of what's happening. Yeah, it's a representative on paper for the most part. But again, most people don't own assets.
Well, the other thing is, it's not the entire economy.
Nope.
It's not.
No. But the economy is great. But if you don't understand what they mean by that, yes, the stock market, generally speaking, is great. But then if you really understand what's going on with the stock market, it's really like, what's been holding up the S&P 500? 6, 7 companies? That's it. Out of the Fortune 500, let's not look at the Russell 2000. We're not going to do that because that's really closer to Main Street. than anything else.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Salchi.
Thank you for having me on.
All right. Peace. Do you have anything you want to say before I wrap up?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, going back to the usual, the budget. A lot of people, they haven't really grasped the concept of a budget, just the basics of how much money you make, how much money you're actually spending, and going from there. And no, that's what we were talking about due to inflation. A lot of people can't survive with the inflation. They're going back to stay with their parents. You got everything from cell phones getting cut off to car repos are going to start being at an all-time high because you can't afford it. I mean, a lot of people going into foreclosure, sell your house. A lot of people pride have got them losing their homes instead of just go ahead and sell and walking away. Like they say, live to fight another day. At least you sold a house, you got something for it. Like the video we seen with a lady, she was upside down in the house. She didn't even have enough equity to sell the house, so she wasn't even gonna make a profit. She was gonna actually lose by selling the house. But the point of reference was nobody told her that, hey, when you get this house, these are things you got to do. Fix the house, the budget for the roof, and things of that. And a good thing, and I didn't talk about this earlier, but I got a home warranty for my house that protected me. Like like 6,000, that was a $5,000 for my roof to be fixed. Um, what was it? $3,000 for my AC unit. My warranty also gave me 2,200 for a refrigerator. My refrigerator messed up. Things are like that. Nobody's talking and telling these things. So, once you get to Johnny come late, you late to the party. A lot of people already know about home warranties. A lot of people already know about putting money aside for a rainy day. The people who only have $500 for emergency, if you own a home, you should multiply that times five at least. If you don't have at least $2,500 or so, just in case something happens when you own a home, because you know a roof, you're looking at, like I said, anywhere from 5 to 10,000. One of my friends, he had a 3-story home. He had to pay 22,000 for his roof. So things like that nobody's talks about until you actually go through the process. That's why I say if you don't learn about life, life will teach you. A lot of people go through these situations and never talk about them. So that's why the newer generation, like the baby boomers, should have been telling us this stuff, coaching us, talking to us about this. But they were in the process of shaming us now, not in affording homes. But needless to say, we could end this with that.
Okay. Well, I think one of the things you talk about in your channel, and one of the things I've learned is that for a lot of things, you have to go out and get the information yourself. You have to be curious enough. You have to understand when you don't know something, and then go out and get the information yourself. Yeah. All right. Thank you,
One of
Sheep.
the,
Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say one of the biggest things I always talk about is, research up and doing the information. That's why I say learn. If I'm gonna do a business, let me research this business before I go out there. If I'm gonna get into finance, or I'm gonna buy a house, let me research all the things. Like me moving furniture back in the day, that was the number one thing that I always told a lot of people who moved in areas. I said, if you have kids, you have to move for your kids. And the number one thing that everybody always say, location, location, location. So with that being said, go ahead.
All right. We here, we gone. All right, everybody. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you, Sheed and Sal, for coming up. Yeah, we'll do these periodically. I have to get up early on Wednesday. I probably shouldn't do it, but if I'm feeling daring, I might do a debate reaction show tomorrow night if I'm feeling daring. Otherwise, I might, I might just go to bed afterwards after watching the whole thing. But thank you to everyone who watched. If you're new, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to make a donation to the channel, thank you to Corrine and Aquateki. My Cash App and PayPal are below in the description box. You can also leave a super thanks. if you feel so inclined. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Everybody, have a good night. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.